Welcome to Market of the Moment. I'm Don Chakowski, the Director of Channel Sales for Fidelity National Title, and I am joined, as always, by Miss Sharon Terhune, our Vice President of Sales and our keeper of in line all of us crazy salespeople. So she's got a lot of responsibility out there. Yes,
I love it.
So, Sharon, we were in a group the other day and had the opportunity to watch a video with Brian Buffini, and there was a lot said about there.
Yeah.
Can you tell me your takeaways from? I mean, it was like, what was it? The bold predictions for the second half of 2023 was the video.
Yeah. Well, first, I got the pleasure of hearing it at a previous meeting, so excited to have all of our sales team and managers also get to hear this as well, because the messaging is just very encouraging.
Yeah.
And even though they're bold predictions and what they think's going to happen, and whether it's Brian and some of his guests that he had on that show, but what's very exciting about it is it does give an incredible projection of what 24 and 25 are going to look like for sales, for sales prices, days on market, for interest rates.
Right.
So very, very optimistic. I think my biggest takeaway that I want to share, because I think it's incredible, is that, and I was unaware of this, is that, they have an amazing graph that shows that millennials are actually the largest group of folks, higher than baby boomers, which I was not clear on that. I always hear baby boomers, biggest wave of folks born in that generation. And to hear that millennials are, and they're right in the age group right now, over the next several years, to be buying homes.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, they're actually predicting that 2025 will go on the books the second or third largest resale purchases in the country on record, which is unbelievable.
And the things that he had to say to support it. It's so funny because we see a lot of different predictions, and we hear a lot of different people who go on and they get a microphone in front of them and they say this is going to be this, and like, I know because of the cycles, and I know because of whatever. But what I liked about what Buffini had to say was really about the breakdown of the housing wise, right? And the math behind it, and the trends of society, as well as like the age thing, right? That we're going to have this large group, and that those folks are going to be moving out of their parents' basement sooner or later here, and that right now with interest rates, that is something that is kind of slowing that down a little bit and making that a little more difficult. However, that that we're likely to see trends that are going to be doing helping that cause, helping these people get moving on. So
and he touched on inflation and where they'd like it to be, obviously in the twos, and once we're in the twos, we'll be seeing 4% interest rates, which is amazing. That 4%, when we can get in the fours, which could be a year from now or whatever, but when we get in the fours, that 2.75 and under 3% interest rates really going to become non-existent to being relevant to someone selling their home, because there's such a demand of folks that would like to sell their home today, but they're not, because they're sitting on it because of the interest rate that they're at, and thinking, well, I'm not going to leave my 2.8 or 2.75 for a 6, right? But he really put a lot of focus on the fact that, now actually is the time to buy, because you do get to choose the home that you want. So go marry that home and love it, and then, trade out the rate when the rates drop, refi.
Yeah. And
I know we've been talking about that for a while, but really, I mean, that's what needs to probably be taking place.
And if you think about the math behind that, right? The fact that, like, if you're in a market where you have to bid, right? Like if you're in a market where you have to bid over asking price, and you have to go like all these things like we saw for that 2-year window, 2020 to 2022. If you're in that window, how much more are you paying, for that property than you would pay for it, instead of a market now where things are a little calmer. Not that there's still getting multiple offers on some properties, and there's still all that happening, but not to the degree it was before. And so if you have to pay a little bit higher mortgage payment for the next, year and a half is typically not like it is, when you have to go over appraised value and you have to go over all these other things that we were seeing before. And so when you look at the finances behind that, it makes sense. It makes sense to go ahead and get into the house, like you said, your dream house now, or that house that you've been planning on waiting for, the downsized house. Get into it now instead of having to pay more for it later.
Well, the other thing to consider too, I mean, they showed graphs over the decades of the escalation in medium home sale price across the country, and even though there is some auto corrections, they're very minor over the years that happen. Generally speaking, the chart just goes like this,
right?
To 2023. So it's not, the houses aren't getting less expensive.
Right.
Okay, so that's why again now is the time to buy, because even if the rates drop, you might pay more for the house because there are still some multiple offers going on, and there are prices. We're in a very different market right now, and I know everybody knows that. Just one that we've not seen, where truly, even though there's low inventory and higher interest rates, we're still seeing demand for homes.
Right.
So that's drawing pricing of homes not to drop.
Yeah.
It's really unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and we've talked about this a lot, about the importance of being educated and being able to understand different, and be able to educate your buyers, right? And because that's really what it comes down to, is it's helping them understand, and then your sellers as well, because if they don't want to sell because they're worried about losing their 3% interest rate and what that means for them, there's other costs around too, and some of it is just that heart cost too, of like your family's growing and you're in a space that's smaller than you need, and that it's worth spending a little bit extra money to be in the space that you need to be in and have the breathing room.
Well, and we talk about this all the time. I mean, there's always going to be a need for real estate.
Yeah.
Okay, they're called life-changing events. Okay, they're life events that we have resources here at Fidelity too, and we're going to talk about some of that stuff over the next few weeks. But life events, you get married. Obviously, you want a new dream home for your new family, right? You have additional children. You need a bigger space, right? Divorces, deaths. I mean, things happen, right? So there's always going to be a reason that people want to move, and interest rate isn't necessarily going to keep people stuck there forever for that, just because of that reason.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, so what, you just alluded to some of the things we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Really one of the messaging was getting back to basics, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about that several times over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely.
But we thought it'd be fun for the next couple of weeks to talk about what that means, right?
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
are those basics, and how can Fidelity support our partners in those basics, right?
Yeah.
So we brought a little bag of tricks today. And this is one of my favorite things. So I worked in retail for many years of my life, and what was nice about the retail, when I worked for the big cellular phone company, and people would come into my store, and they wanted to buy a phone, right, and or they wanted to buy a phone case, or they wanted to buy whatever, but they came to me. And I didn't have to go out into the world to find them and like, hey, did you were you thinking about switching your long distance service? No, that's old school, right? But they came to me with questions about what they were looking for, and then I just had to solve the problems. Right. We're still in this industry, we're in the problem solving business, but we don't have a big retail location for people to come to.
Right.
And so I always think about like open houses as the closest thing we have to that, right? That if you are able to sit in an open house, that you still have those potential buyers coming to you, and then now yes, some of them are going to come in and already have an agent working with them, right? That's going to happen. Right. But just like when I was in the cell phone business, they would come in to be okay. Well, I really want to go with the other provider, but just thought I wanted to see what you guys had.
Yeah, absolutely.
So but what we've done is we've really tried to take some of the guessing game and some of the lead generation stuff out of that process, or make it easier at least for our agents that are holding open houses. And so first I want to encourage you, if you haven't been doing open houses, or if you want feedback and suggestions, getting with your Fidelity sales executive is going to be one of the most important things you can do, because we can help you have a great strategy and have a great plan. I can tell you, if it's Thursday afternoon and you decide that you're going to do a open house on Friday and Saturday, and that you're not going to have the same results as if you the previous Thursday have decided that Friday and Saturday you're going to be doing an open house. So planning is one of our biggest.
Well, truly, the planning parts of an open house house and how you strategically go about, notifying neighbors and everything that you do ahead of time, quite honestly, can give you more fruits to your labor of that open house than actually just having the open house.
Right.
So that's where Don's saying 100%. We have strategies behind that. Our sales team has great strategies for you on that. In addition, if you have a home that needs more exposure and you would like to somehow put together, multiple homes to have open at the same time, we're doing those community open houses as well. And you can notify your Fidelity sales executive, myself, or Don, and we can get that rolling for you. But just to get you more exposure through to the neighbors as well as on social and all that goodness.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think, and on that note, I'm going to dig into our little bag of open house tricks here, because this is one of my favorite tools that we have. So once upon a time, so this is my 9th year. Actually, this month is my 9-year anniversary at Fidelity.
Wow.
So yeah, and time flies when we're having fun.
Crazy.
And having a good time. So, but several years ago, we did an open house neighborhood open house, and we had, I think, 25 open houses in one master plan community, and it was really great. And so I went and stopped and visited the open houses, and I would bring this with me, and this is our open house feedback form. And it's great. People, Sharon, the realtor, I'm like, hey, Sharon, use this at your open house. But one of the things that we do differently, though, is we really talk about best practices around these things. Yeah. And so I would talk to people about, and I was visiting these open houses. I'm like, how are you collecting your visitors? And then they were showing me like they had a sign-in sheet and and all that stuff. And so I would say, well, what about, if you looked at using this open house feedback form as your registration piece? Yeah. And so and then you can task your visitors with rating the house, and that's what I don't know what you guys see on here, but this has got like these different areas of the house and asks you for ratings on those. Yeah. And on the back of this form, it asks for the visitor's information, name, address, where they're at in the home shopping process, and all that. Yeah. So what I would coach people to do is, Sharon, welcome to my open house. It's great to have you here. Listen, our sellers are looking for a lot of feedback around the house. We want to make sure that our buyer is getting the best for their value, and we also want to make sure our seller is also doing the best they can. So would you mind, as you're walking through the house, would you mind filling out this form and just kind of rating these different areas? And also on the backside, if you could take the time to just fill out this survey on the back about some information about where you're at in the buying process and all this. This will be really helpful for us and all that. And so in this generation of HGTV and all this, where everybody's got opinions on everything, right? This is just such a great tool for people, and people want to do it, right? They want to do it because they watched what Christina's doing or Tarek's doing, and they want to and so they want to go through and rate these things. Yeah. And so then as your visitor walks through the house and they're going through and rating it, then when they come back to you, then it's like, oh my gosh, Sharon, mind if I take a look real quick and see if I have any questions on anything? Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned the first impressions of the interior. You put it as fair. Anything jump out at you, like things that maybe easy things we could do in the house to kind of change that a little bit? And then Sharon's going to give me her answer. And meanwhile, I'm flipping over the other side. I'm looking to make sure I've got Sharon's name and her phone number and email and seeing where she's at in this process. And so Sharon's giving me her answer. I'm like, oh, Sharon, I didn't get your email address on here. Is this the best way to reach you if we've got any questions or follow-up to your feedback? And so great way to get contact with people. So back to this community open house we did. Yeah. I only was able to make it to 12 of the open houses that day. And what
Which is a lot.
Right. Yes. Yeah. It was a lot. I was tired. It was Easter weekend too. Yeah, it's a lot. And so by the time I got, a friend of mine was holding an open house for one of our agents that she had another listing in the neighborhood too that she was at. So I started there in the morning, and then I circled back there in the afternoon, and there was another house right kitty corner from it that was also doing open house that weekend as part of the program. So I stopped at that one that was kitty corner first, and they just had a log, and there had been 7 people who signed in. Okay. And over the 3-hour open house, and I'll mind you, this was before things got crazy and we had 80 people showing up for open houses, but they had the 7 people, and I said, oh my gosh, this is great, and so then I started talking about this, and so you have 7 people sign in, and well, actually the first 2 are us. and like we just signed it in. We put it our own, you know,
course, yeah.
and just to set a good example and all that, and like okay, cool. And so so we talked about this and the whole process, and I left them some of these behind, and then I went back to where I started in the morning, and she had 15 of these filled out, and it was literally kitty corner. So there's no reason why people weren't going to one and not going to the other.
Yeah.
You know, and
well, and I think what's cool about this, Don, and I think just, you know, let's leave a little surprises.
Yeah.
You got to meet with your Fidelity sales exec to get all the great goodness of the perfect open house. But I think what's great about this, and I know you're probably saying, well, gosh, you know, open houses, you know, low inventory, why would I bother? Well, you know what? A lot of our partners are out there doing open houses and having great success with them.
Yep.
And you know, again, we're thinking about 2024 right now. We're, you know, we're doing the activities, you know, even if you had a handful of people come through, that's still successful, and you made contacts with the right people within the radius of the property as well, which could be potential listings for you, okay? But again, what's going to happen? I mean, there could be an increase in inventory that happens at the end of the year into next year. Are you ready for that? Are you prepared? Are you doing the right things that you know when that market shifts that way, which it will inevitably, that you know how to hold the perfect open house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and there's so many different tips and things, like to the location, to the to how to talk to the neighbors, all these different tools, resources, the predictive analytics, all these things that we can bring into place on this.
Right.
And so that's really why it's so important that you get with your Fidelity sales executive to talk about what that perfect open house looks like, and have an opportunity to do the best. So,
awesome.
Okay,
Love
so the
it.
rest of the bag of tricks, you're gonna have to get with your Fidelity sales executive to go through the rest of the bag over here.
Well, there's some
But
special stuff.
I know
but
there's good stuff.
We're gonna leave that for surprise.
Okay, so I think it is time to check in with the Market Master, Mindy.
Okay.
And see what's going on out there with the inventory situations and what the feel of the market is right now. So,
perfect.
So Mindy, what do you have going on for us?
Have you ever tried holding your breath underwater just to see how long you could hold it for? Well, that's what most people have been doing over the last year as interest rates have continued to creep up. Holding it and holding it and holding it until they just can't hold it anymore. Those who were expecting a crash, they've already exhaled. Those who've needed to right size, they've exhaled. And those who had somewhere to go had to exhale. There's been a lot going on this last year. Home prices took a little trip down a year ago, and they've been climbing their way back up since December. We went from having 17,000 houses on the market a year ago to less than 11,000 today. And average days on market have gone from 3 to 8 weeks, meaning that if you're getting back into the market after holding your breath, things are going to look a little different and frankly, a whole lot better. Prices are pretty close to where they were last year at this time. So if you're a buyer, you didn't miss out. And if you're a seller, you've got way less competition than you had if you were trying to house hop last July. And new construction, man, what a turnaround that part of our market has made. If you haven't considered new construction, I would definitely start checking it out with a real estate agent. Many people think that they can get a discount on the price if they don't take an agent with them, or don't really understand what an agent can do for them at all. The truth of the matter is that the best agents in the industry right now are working side by side with the builders to get the best inventory at the best price and bring it to you. We've never seen such a massive gap between the pace of the new construction market and the resale market, which to me sounds like an opportunity.
Well, thank you so much, Mindy. We appreciate your update as always, and your knowledge. And I know that's how I keep tabs on what's going on, is just listening to your updates. And I mean, it's like a recap of everything that is going on. So appreciate you.
Yeah.
What do you think? Should we pivot over to Amber? What do you think?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Is a conventional loan always the better option for a client? For a long time, conventional was the go-to loan program, and we only used FHA in the case of someone with really low credit, higher debt-to-income ratios, and maybe the need for a super low down payment. It really didn't benefit most people. But since the recent changes on conventional loans, coupled with the recent reduction in FHA mortgage insurance, which saves the average buyer in our market about $100 a month off their payment, FHA is back. And as we continue to be challenged by affordability in our market, it's so important that buyers are being shown all of their options. Low down payment conventional, higher down payment conventional, and FHA options to ensure they are getting the best loan strategy for their specific financial goals and situations. We are always here to help your clients get a second opinion to make sure that the largest debt that they will likely ever incur is properly structured. And we can do all of that without a hard pull to their credit. So let us know how we can help. And as always, my team is available for all of your weekend pre-qualification needs. Thanks so much.
Amber, thank you so much. We appreciate your insight as always. And we're excited for the future, and what a great conversation we get to have today, and about getting back to basics. I'm excited for our future conversations about getting back to the basics, but really those open houses are one of those most important things I think we can be doing. So, okay, well, that's going to wrap us up for this week, and we're looking forward to seeing you back next week, and have a great week.
Ciao.